Welcome into Texans today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's program, will Stingley get an extension? Derek Stingley, after an amazing year, will the Texans, Nick Caserio, end up having to cut or trade some of those starters that played this season? And Jerrod Johnson, could he be the next offensive coordinator? Because this coming in today, per Cody Stutes, DeMeco Ryans said he will take this week, the end of this week, to make a decision on his staff. And by his staff, we all know that means Bobby Slowik. But before we get into anything, before I break down anything, I need you to answer one thing. If you do anything in today's video, I want it to be this. Go down and shoot your shot. Predict it. Will Bobby Slowik be the OC next season? Give me your answer. Give me your reasoning down in the comment section. I'll be looking, but give me your prediction. Will Bobby Slowik be the play caller for your Houston Texans next season? Coming up on today's show, I do have the latest news and rumors surrounding your Houston Texans to start the offseason. Yesterday, rough, the 24 hours after the loss. Now, more than a day after the loss, we got to get into offseason mode. We're going to be talking a lot of free agency, a lot around this roster, around this team, about what changes might be made and what changes maybe should be made. So let's first talk about this storyline. Derek Stingley, will he be getting an extension this offseason? I'm going to give that 4 Toro heads. I think it is a done deal. I think it is happening. And what made me give this 4 Toro heads and why I think this is a foregone conclusion for your Houston Texans is because Derek Stingley really wants to be a Texan. And unless the Texans are absolutely insane, they should want Stingley to be a Texan as well. When talking to the media today, Stingley told reporters, "I want to be here forever." You don't say that stuff lightly, especially going into contract negotiations, unless you truly want to stay where you're at. And I think Stingley really does. The problem lies in what the contract's going to look like. Because as we look at the top 10 highest paid cornerbacks per year for the NFL, obviously you're looking at Jalen Ramsey, Pat Surtain, both at that $24 million mark. And that is where Stingley is going to want to hit it. So what the Texans are going to have to do, what they should do, is you need to get it done ASAP. As soon as possible, Nick, get it done. First off, you got to accept his 5th-year option, which, they're going to do that. Every team that has a good first-round rookie ends up accepting that 5th-year option for them. And then you got to, on top of that, give them that extension so you can kind of use that 5th-year option as kind of a buffer year. Look at what the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts. Look at what they did with his contract. They gave him a contract before his rookie deal was up so you can kind of mitigate some of those high numbers that they're going to get and spread the money out throughout the remainder of his contract. So it might be, a 3-year deal with X amount of numbers, but you got to factor in if the Texans add that 5th-year option for Stingley, adding that into the contract evaluation will be big. And I think, you got to look at this team and say, we got to run it back on defense with the guys we had, because up against the Kansas City Chiefs, this defense looked awesome. If the Texans offense was a little bit better, maybe if calls went our way, things would be different. But I, for one, think the Texans should 1,000% extend Derek Stingley. If you're with me, type Sting down in the comment section. I think they should get it done ASAP. He's somebody who the Texans took a chance on with the 3rd overall pick. They drafted him over Ahmad Sauce Gardner. A lot of people were laughing at the Texans. A lot of people thought the Texans made the wrong move. Now it looks like the Texans made the right move with Stingley, but they got to make the next move, which is extending him, making sure he's a Texan for years to come. If you agree with me, go down and type those stings. Next up, Texans. Will they cut/trade some of the guys that started for the team this season? Some of the guys who were playing up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who were in starting roles? I'll get to that in just a moment, but got to show some love to our sponsor real quick. That is Game Time. Last-minute tickets, those lowest prices, they are guaranteed. You can see the seat view before you even buy the ticket inside the app. And there's nothing in this world like watching a live sporting event. Sharing those moments with friends and family is amazing. And the playoffs, they're like nothing else in the world. Whether you're trying to sit at the 50-yard line or in the nosebleeds, Game Time has you covered. They're trying to bring people together in 2025, and they've got deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the best place to find last-minute seats. Also, if you are trying to, find the best bang for your buck, find the very best deals, they have a brand new feature called the Game Time Picks. This basically filters out all the fluff and make sure you get the very best bang for your buck. I know the Texans, their season is over, but our Houston Rockets are looking very good. This young core, Ime Udoka, the Houston Rockets are a team that you will want to see, and the best place to see them, go over to Game Time and get those tickets today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. Now, will the Texans cut or trade some of the guys that were starting this season? I think it's very likely. I think I'm going to give this 3 Toro heads, giving it about a 75% chance that some of the guys that were starting for this Texans team this season will not be on the squad next year. And as I was looking at some of the contracts, as I was looking at some of the guys that could be dealt or moved on from, here's some of the trade candidates that I landed on. And this isn't a solid list. I'll probably do, my top trade candidate videos and top cut candidate videos in the future throughout the offseason as we get closer and closer to, whenever the trade period opens, when free agency opens. All this stuff can be fluid and will be changing. But just looking at the team, Dalton Schultz could be a guy that I know the Texans re-signed this past year. 2 years left on his deal. They re-signed Brevin Jordan to a 1-year deal. Cade Stover looked really good. He could be somebody who's who's dispensable for this offense. Shaq Mason, Kenyon Green, a pair of offensive linemen that did not look good for your Houston Texans this year. Both those guys, it's more lucrative for the Texans to try and trade those guys than cut them because you'll be eating a ton of dead cap if you try to cut either Shaq Mason or Kenyon Green. If a team's looking or desperate for offensive line help, maybe you could unload these guys for like 6th or 7th round picks. Kaimi Fairbairn, I'm only putting him in here because he was really disappointing. 3 missed kicks. I'm not going to try to slice it. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it anyway. Kaimi Fairbairn was not good up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think he gets moved on from. I think he is your kicker going into next season, but it is just a name to keep an eye out for. And Christian Harris, he was injured the entire season. Even when he came back, didn't really make an impact. The Texans have Henry Toto, who stepped up big time for the Texans. I love how he played this year. Big fan of Henry. Also, Azeez Al-Shire, that's D'Amico's guy. It's the captain in the middle of the defense. They're not going to move on from Azeez Al-Shire. So kind of the odd guy out in that room might be Christian Harris. You can save a lot of money if you trade him. And then some cut candidates. These guys, you can save money if you cut them. And I don't know their role or their place on the team next year. Jimmie Ward, the safety, I really like what I saw out of Kalen Bullock. Hopefully Jalen Petrie is good to go next season. Those should be your starting 2 safeties if you're the Houston Texans. Juice Scruggs, another offensive lineman who, at the very end of the year, they decided to start Shaq Mason over him at right guard. So Juice Scruggs, I don't know if he's a guy who the Texans want to bring in to this next season either. And then you have the pair of wide receivers, John Metchie and Xavier Hutchinson. I don't know if the Texans run it back with both these guys. They ended up cutting Noah Brown in the preseason for these 2 guys. I don't want to say it didn't work out because Noah Brown ended up getting injured, didn't end the season. John Metchie and Xavier Hutchinson, I will say, a little underwhelming on how they played towards the end of this year. But a lot of tough decisions are going to have to be made, whether it's cutting or trading people. Because right now, the Texans only have $10 million in available cap space to sign guys. And they already have guys who they want to bring back in free agency. There's guys like Foley Fatukasi, Mario Edwards Jr., Stephon Diggs, who C.J. Stroud openly said today he wants to bring back next season. You also have guys like Eric Murray, who started at safety for you on the back half of the year. So there's guys that the Texans want to re-sign, and you only have $10 million just to sign those guys. That's not even bringing in any of the new guys, any of the guys who you want to maybe fill some of these holes, like maybe offensive line. Sign an offensive lineman in free agency. You don't have the money to do that currently. You have to make moves. There's going to have to be some tough decisions, some tough cuts, or some tough trades to make some wiggle room, to make this, salary cap that the Texans have go up a little bit so that they are able to make this team a little bit better going into next season. So I do think they will cut or trade some guys. And lastly, Jerrod Johnson. Could we see him be the next offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach for the Texans currently. We, very beginning of the show, talked about D'Amico. He's going to make a decision on the staff by the end of this week. I still think Jerrod Johnson's a one Toro head, though, to be that next OC. And the reason why is it worries me a little bit. It worries me a little bit going with Jerrod Johnson. Only 5 seasons coaching in the NFL. And yes, I know a lot of people credit Stroud's early success to Jerrod Johnson, and he's been really good as the Texans quarterback coach. He got a lot of hype last season as a sneaky OC candidate for a lot of teams, a former quarterback, so he understands the game very well. I like Jerrod Johnson, and I wouldn't mind him as the OC, but I'm just worried the lack of experience. Kind of the same thing that you have with Bobby Slowik. I said it on yesterday's show. I think Bobby Slowik is going to be a good coach in this league. He just lacks experience and doesn't have enough skins on the wall and doesn't have that experience when it comes down to pressure moments in big games. And if that's my concern with Bobby Slowik, it's going to be my same concern with Jerrod Johnson because he has never called plays at the NFL level. And if you're a team like the Houston Texans that you feel like you're a couple steps away, a couple moves away from possibly making it to the Super Bowl, I don't know if a first-year OC and Jerrod Johnson helps move the needle at all for you at offensive coordinator. If you're moving on from Bobby Slowik, I think you're going to want to go with a much more seasoned guy in the NFL. That's why if they do end up moving on from Bobby Slowik, a little, you made to the end of the video, a little maybe hint towards some of my videos later on in the week, possibly if they do get rid of Bobby Slowik, I think the Texans and D'Amico Ryans might go with one of his former friends in San Francisco, whether that's a Kubiak, whether that's a Greasy, whether it's one of those guys on the offensive staff in San Francisco. I think that is the most likely option for D'Amico Ryans if they do move on from Bobby Slowik. And no matter what they do, if they sign guys, extend guys, cut guys, trade guys, if they, move on from Bobby Slowik, I will break down all the news here on the channel. That's why you got to hit that subscribe button for the latest around your Houston Texans, 100% free. We just passed 26,000 subscribers. Can't thank you enough for that. Now we're on our way to 27. Hey, heck, we're on our way to 30,000 subscribers. So join the Texans Today family today and hit that subscribe button for daily videos around your Houston Texans.